Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back. Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Hey, let's talk some insurance. Mr. Richard .tonihka, how are we doing over there?
We're doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm good. By the way, website for Richard is richard.tagency.com, richardtagency.com. Phone number 817-286-2002, 817-286-2002. For all of your insurance needs, I always recommend giving him a call and checking out everything with him because he's going to take care of you. He's going to save you money, get you better policies. If that's your sort of thing, saving money. Maybe it's not. So what's going on, Richard? What are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about a normal home policy. What are the different coverages? What are some of the different endorsements that you can add? And then we'll talk about the deductibles. But giving you a good understanding of what you're purchasing and knowing how these numbers interrelate with one another. Okay. So when you're comparing one policy to another, you're looking at some companies may come out and say this is the dwelling policy, or this is the dwelling, this is coverage A, or your home structure. You never know exactly how each carrier is going to name it, but it's basically the frame of your house. So anytime you're talking about your dwelling, not your separate structures, your coverage A, or your structure, then that is the basic home. If you or the way your house was built before you ever moved in, one piece of item, that's your dwelling. Your separate structures are your pool. If you have some kind of playset in the back, you have any kind of decks, sheds, anything that isn't attached to your house that is part of your property and part of any kind of structure that's man-made. So your fence is included in that. Normally it's 10%. So if you have if your dwelling is valued at $100,000, then you're automatically going to get 10%. But let's say you've got a $300,000 house. You're going to get $30,000 in separate structures. That sounds great. Do you have a shed? If yes. And do you have a play set? Those are just about $1,000. Do you have a pool? Mm-hmm. Do you, like the houses that you were discussing last week, they had all these outside amenities included with each house. Would $30,000 be enough to replace that? That's what... Hello? Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
That's what you're looking at when we're discussing what do you have in your house, because we need to know that so that we can cover you sufficiently.
Yeah, and it's just as important for the separate structures as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because you could have a detached garage, detached shed, detached RV. One client had a 40-foot RV structure that was just specifically custom built for their RV. So all of those types of structures, not to mention, those big, galvanized metal, steel frame buildings that could be, a couple thousand square feet, on a larger rural property.
Exactly. And if you've got one of those exquisite kind of outdoor cooking areas, mm-hmm. and a bad hailstorm comes through and just demolishes that, that's quite a bit of money. Normally, it's a lot more than 10% of the house, and so we go in and add to that. It doesn't always have to. It just starts off 10% is the norm. It's what every carrier is going to put on the policy. Mm-hmm. But after that, we can increase it or decrease it if we need. If you don't have anything, all you have is a fence, and you want to decrease, it's not going to save you really much money at all to take that 10% down to 5 or 2%. But it's something we can do.
Right. Yeah, every little bit helps. And, really the big thing is if you've got more than that, you need to make sure that those things are taken care of. And what if, one of these structures is enclosing, very important items. That's another thing.
Because although I threw out the hell what I'm really looking at is kind of a tornado or a fire or something like that, something that is going to really actually make
Devastate.
you rebuild everything, where it's a total loss, because that's really where it's going to come in. Then coverage C, also known as personal property. So if you took your house, shook it, and everything that falls out, personal property. Doesn't matter if it's in your garage, in your house, whatever it is, that's your personal property. For some people, you can look at it and it's anywhere from 40 up to 75%. So we can play with those numbers however we need to. On a $300,000 house, normally you're looking at 50%, $150,000. Some carriers start off at 40%, so $120,000 is what you're looking at for a personal property.
Mm-hmm.
But we take it as a case-by-case basis, like we were talking about for the separate structures. How much do you have in your house? Are the things that you have in your house nicer? And if they're too nice, or not too nice, but if they're above the coverage limit, not above the coverage limit, but the item limit, because every item is going to have a sub-limit on your personal property. And so are your rings worth more than $1,500? If they are, let's look at getting those appraised and getting those scheduled. Because the personal property is unscheduled personal property, which means if there's a theft, there has to be a police report. It's not covered if you lose it or something like that. It's some kind of lost coverage and theft. And so theft is a lost coverage. The thing where unscheduled, when you schedule something, if you set it down and leave it, and for whatever reason you just forget it and walk away, like your wedding ring. I'll go into a story in a second, but your wedding ring, you wash your hands, take it off, leave it in the bathroom, come back, and it's gone. That's still going to be covered if it's been scheduled with your home policy.
Right.
And so all you have to do is just call your agent, let them know exactly what happens, and then you start through the claims process. But there was a woman that did that exact thing. She went into the bathroom, washed her hand, took off her wedding ring, and a guy found it. And I think we were talking about this, and he ended up going to jail because he lied about he said he didn't find it, but it was a $30,000 ring.
Wow.
It's amazing. But I mean, the higher limits on your jewelry, your guns, depending if you keep gold and silver in your house, scheduling that stuff actually gives you the best coverage that you can get, because if it's lost, then you're still covered.
And how much would something like that add to your policy, Richard?
It really depends on the dollar amount that you're covering, and it varies dramatically from one carrier to another. And so there are some carriers where it may be 60 or 16 cents on a dollar or something. It's not that expensive.
Okay. But
when you're looking at, I mean, like I tell people, when we're looking at deductibles and stuff like that, and you're looking at cost, if this is costing you $100 to cover your ring, that's $30,000. To me, that's a no-brainer, because if you lose it once,
right, exactly.
So
let's talk odds though too. Wedding rings are lost all the time.
Yes,
they're lost on vacations. When you go to the gym, all these types of things. If you haven't got your wedding rings scheduled, plus your other jewelry, I mean, what else happens regularly? Break-ins happen. What gets stolen? Jewelry.
Exactly.
Guns. If you even just your average guns, which average basic few guns, probably covered, under just, you can get those covered because it's probably not going to be more than $1,500. But if you have nice firearms, maybe collectible firearms,
yes,
you're going to need to schedule those. If you collect art, you've got some Remingtons, maybe you got Wylands or whatever the case may be, some nice artwork, get that covered. What's going to happen more than likely, versus something catastrophic, a break-in, water damage to potentially your artwork, those types of things. All these things need to be scheduled.
And that's really where we come in and we talk about, I mean, what are your assets? What are you really trying to protect with your home insurance? Because it's only going to, a home insurance is only going to protect the stuff that's in your home and personal property up to 10% of the value of your personal property subcategory when you're on vacation or when your kids are at school. They're still covered up to 10%. So you don't have to really get renter's insurance for your kids when they're at school because your homeowner's policy takes care of that.
Okay. Well, lots and lots of good information. And just to kind of recap on the exterior structures, folks, look, let's just say you've got the average $300,000 house, here in the DFW area. Okay. Let's say you got a pool and you've got a really nice outdoor cooking area. Okay. Your pool, to redo your pool, you're probably looking at $50,000. Even if the thing's seriously old, it's not that cheap anymore. So there's 50 G's right there. If you have an outdoor kitchen area, you might have spent 20 G's on that. So that's $70,000 on a $300,000 house. If they've just got the average, the basic with every policy, they only got $30,000. So these guys are gonna be short $40,000.
Exactly.
Boom. There you go. We just made it real for you. And now you're understanding it.
We just got real, Mike.
We just got real, like boom. Hey, $40,000, and that's just on the average $300,000 house. You guys out there do the math. And if you're undercovered, which you probably are, you need to give Richard a call. Don't forget that number, 817-286-2002, richardtagency.com, and then the scheduling. Oh my God, people have to schedule their belongings. Absolutely. Because that is scary, especially the wedding rings. That can hit you big time.
Your wedding rings, scheduling those are a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, folks, we'll call Richard with all of your insurance needs. He's going to take care of you personally. 817-286-2002, richardtagency.com. Know what? We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come on back.